Welcome back. If you're new around here, I'm Lou, and this is our self-converted camper van called Fanny. She's a fan of mountain drives, beachside park-ups, and what she particularly likes is European mechanics. But what she doesn't like, and as our most recent trip has proved, is the extreme cold. So, back in 2019, my incredibly, I want to say annoying, but I'm going to use the word endearing, better half decided we needed to upgrade our small basic camper conversion to something a bit bigger, so we bought this. It's an L3 H2 Citroen Relay, and we spent 9 months kitting it out for summer adventures. But now, after spending some winter van life time in Slovenia and Austria, my incredibly endearing better half has decided she wants to spend more time playing in the snow. Now, there are several reasons why this van isn't cut out for extreme winter van life, and quite a few of you have expressed an interest in what we're going to change, so I just thought I'd make this very quick, short video of what works, what doesn't, the upgrades we're going to do, and the thing I have to change, which may mean I need to rip the whole lot out. So the first thing I need to sort out is at the back here, and I have written myself some notes, so if you see me glance down, it's because I have very limited time to make this video, so I want to make sure I get it all in. Now, when we built this van initially, I had absolutely no idea that my very endearing wife would want to do winter van life, and it's only when we got to the likes of Austria and Slovenia and saw how beautifully stunning it is and how much nicer it is to be in that kind of cold than the traditional wet, miserable cold of the UK. So that is why we're now adapting the van for winter van life, but I do need to make some changes. And like I say, I don't know if you can see here, we've got a serious issue with condensation to the point where these back doors are going mouldy. Now I'll show you what the problem is. So the main issue lies here. This is the sill that the back doors, this side of the back door shut to when you shut the van. And the problem is because the external metal of the van comes in, comes round, and then these sit on top of that, you get what's called thermal bridging, so you can't insulate for this. And what happens is a condensation builds up all along this rubber sill, all the way around the door, and then eventually it runs down, and when the doors are closed, it's building up here and causing this issue. Now, I won't go into the science of it too much because it will just cause a furore, a fracas in the comments, but basically the only real way you can stop condensation is heat and ventilation. Now, that issue stops if we leave the diesel heater on all night and we crack this back window, which is next to where my head is when I sleep. The problem with that is if you're in a bit of a dodgy park up, or you don't want to leave that back window cracked, it's very easy then for someone to rip that off if you've got it cracked open. So I think more heat in the back, because we've only got the one outlet, I'll show you the diesel heater in a minute, more heat in the back so that I rely on the ventilation mainly from the skylight will probably stop this issue. There's no point me putting more insulation in. Insulation isn't going to fix it, it's going to help, but insulation just delays the process, if that makes sense. And like I say, with the thermal bridging, I can insulate the back doors to your heart's content, but it's not going to stop condensation forming on there, so definitely more heat in the back. Now, my main concern with putting too much heat in the back is it's where my batteries are and it's also where my fridge is, so I don't want to warm it too much so that the fridge then has to keep, the compressor keeps coming on and on and on all night long, because that's going to deplete power, and I don't want my batteries to get too hot. Now, I've had thousands of questions about our lithiums, so I'm just going to tell you how they perform. Now, we've got Eco-Tree lithiums. We've got 2 single 110 amp hour lithiums, so a total of 220 amp hours. They were absolutely brilliant. So prior to this, we had just bog standard AGMs, which were very, very good. But I did notice that when you go to somewhere it's very cold, they deplete quite quickly and they take a bit of a longer time to charge up. Whereas with the lithiums, I noticed absolutely no loss even in -12, we was getting the same amount of power out over the same amount of time as what we was before that. So I can't, and when you're working on the road and you need power and you don't want to be moving every day or running the engine for 2 to 3 hours every day just to get power, having the lithiums made a massive difference. Like I say, AGMs do deplete quicker, they're great batteries, but for us, lithiums have been a winner. My only slight concern is that in the cold, you can use them in the cold, you can use them down to -20 in the cold, but charging them up. Now, I don't think the ambient temperature in here is getting below 0 anyway, but I may have a look at an option of doing something, because we plan to go to extreme cold, so -15, -20. We're going to be out skiing, snowboarding all day, and then potentially getting back in the van and driving off, and that's when you may have a problem, is when the large current from the DC to DC charger kicks in. But like I say, I think that's only going to be an issue in extreme cold, so anything -10, like I say, the ambient temperature in the back of this van isn't getting below 0. So yeah, lithium's absolutely winner from us. Definitely, if I know they're pricey, but if you're doing a build or you're looking to upgrade your power system, definitely look at the EcoTree lithiums. I put them through their paces, to be fair. They've took a right hammering on this trip, and like I say, they're just as good as they were when they first went in. Now, our biggest problem, and some of you will remember, is our pipes froze. Our tanks didn't. They're Barrett tanks and they're meant to be rated down to about -10, but I feel if you were sat anywhere for a long period of time, they would start to freeze as well. And this is where I may need your help from people that have either done it and taken it to extreme cold. Now, we've got underslung tanks and all the pipe work is outside of the van, so when you're in the cold, they're going to freeze. Now, obviously, we're going to lag the pipes, but all that's going to do is buy me a little bit of time. They're going to freeze, but they're going to freeze slower. And then also, if they do freeze and they're lagged, it's going to take me longer to unfreeze them. So I'm looking at 2 different options. I can either go for a tank blanket, which is like a heated blanket that we stick to the van, and then that kicks in when it gets to a certain temperature and warms it all up. Or I can look at like a probe, a heater probe. So I drill a hole in my tanks, fit this probe, and then that does a similar thing. But both of those are quite power hungry. I think the probes use about 150 watts. The tank blanket's a little bit less, but they're still going to draw quite a lot of power. Now, I can't put my tanks inside. The easy option was to move it all inside, and you don't have a problem. So if you do want to do winter van life and you don't have a dog, a cat and 2 people in the van, you may have space to put them inside, which might be a better option. But for us, we just cannot give up the storage. So I'm going to have to do something with the tanks and the pipes. I think you can also get like a pipe heater that you would put inside of your lagging, and again, that kicks in. But I don't want to put too much of a power drain trying to keep the tanks warm. So for anyone that's got underslung tanks and has done, it's not someone that just has learnt about it, someone that's actually been there and doing it. I've been in the forums and lots of people are saying the tank blankets are good. So any advice on that would be great, because that's probably my biggest, most difficult problem to rectify, because I can't move them inside. But yeah, I'm going to do some more research. Anyone that lives in the cold, done this in the cold, do let me know in the comments, and let everyone else know that's looking at doing this in the comments, because it'll be really helpful for some real world experience. But like I say, I will update you on what I find out when I come to doing it. It's going to be a sod of a job as well, because I've got no way of lifting this thing up. What I need is a tiny person. If I had a tiny person I could spend under, but for anyone that was here for Van Build Series 1.0, you know it ain't happening. My God, it is cold in here. So I'm going to make the rest of this as quick as I can. The next thing I absolutely 100% have to do, because it is doing my nutting, is the suspension. Now, this van is pretty heavy because we've made it all out of wood and we've got all kinds of adventure gear in here. So the suspension, well, there isn't one. It's just ka-donk, 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 ka-donk. And some of the European roads aren't the best. So for my own sanity, it's going to be new leaf springs, maybe some sort of air suspension, but I've heard mixed reviews about that. But again, people that have done it, let me know in the comments, because I absolutely have to sort out the suspension. It is killing me. And the other thing I'm going to have to sort out is the cold start issue. Now, I have a glow plug issue. Many of you in the comments have kindly notified me that I need to turn the key to let the glow plugs heat up. Now, I know this, I do this all the time. When it's really cold, I usually do it 3 times, and you can hear the relay come on and you can hear it click off, and after about 10 seconds it clicks off, and that's when your glow plugs have warmed up. I just don't film it because it becomes very boring, so usually I do it and then the key's already in like the 2nd position or whatever, and then I start the engine for the driving away shot. But yeah, I do it, but I definitely do have a glow plug issue. The relay was changed when the new engine went in, so I know it's not the relay, and like I say, I can hear it. The glow plug light does come on, so a whole set of new glow plugs in there is going to help. But I do think -15 parked up for 3 or 4 days at a time, I may find that cold starts are going to be an issue. So I'm looking at like a diesel preheating system. Now, I've got absolutely no idea what I need, so again, any advice in the comments would be great. And I think you can only get them that they seem to run off of 240 volt, which is fine because I can plug it into the Jackery. But any experience or links for any of this would be ideal, because it really helps when you can go and actually have a look at what people are trying to explain to you. Because like I say, no idea what I need, but I think you basically heat up the coolant system, sends it around the engine for an hour or so, and then when you start it, it's already warm. So yeah, definitely some sort of preheating engine system is going to be needed. Oh, where's my list? Right, while we are on the mechanical side of things, yes, the handbrake. Now, The biggest problem I had when we broke down is what both recovery guys said to me is what I'd probably find is that my handbrake, if you don't know, the handbrake broke and then it led to all kinds of problems with the brakes and the wheelbarrow, the drum, whatever it's called. That was, they think, because my handbrake froze and then I just drove around with a frozen on handbrake and it caused some damage. Now, to be fair, I would never have considered that as an issue, and what they said, excuse me, there's a tractor. What they said a lot of people do in the cold countries is they just don't use their handbrake in the winter, so leave it in gear, chock it up, and they don't use it. So like I say, didn't even occur to me. I've never been in that kind of cold for any period of time. And then because that snapped, they removed one side, which meant the other side was uneven, and that then jammed up and damaged all the brakes on this side. And then I think the heat from me driving like that caused damage to the actual drum of the wheel. So yeah, it ended up costing an arm and a leg to get fixed, but it is fixed. I do get the brakes and everything checked before we go on a long trip. I got the front ones done just before this trip, so unfortunately I stuffed up the brakes, but I do have a whole set of new rear brakes now. So yeah, it might be worth bearing in mind if you're going to do it. There can be problems with parts of your vehicle freezing when you're parked up for a long time. But again, anyone that lives in the extreme cold, let me know any other simple things to you that I would miss, because that would be really helpful. Now, one thing that did perform extremely well was our diesel heater. We've got a planar 2 kilowatt diesel heater, and to be honest, when this is running, sometimes it is too warm in the van. But like I say, I have got that issue at the back, so what I'm thinking is adding an optional Y piece here and running a pipe coming off of this, going all the way down to the back, that I can just use as and when I feel like it, to warm the back up when I need to make sure we're not getting that condensation issue. But I'm a bit tight on space in here for doing that. But yeah, that's something I'm going to look into, so that if we want to, we can heat the back. And at times, because sometimes it'll be, well, you want it on to take the chill off, but I don't want to be roasting, you know, roasting warm. So hopefully I can come up with a solution for that. So that will be in a video documented at some point. But yeah, the diesel heater, absolutely amazing. If you haven't got one, I can't recommend it highly enough. It really excelled itself. Back in my notepad, so a couple of other things that outperformed or performed really well that I wasn't expecting to perform as well was our insulation. Our choice of insulation when we did the build was a mixture of Celotex and the recycled plastic wall stuff. We've got like 100 mils in the wall, 40 mil in the roof, 25 mil in the floor. And honestly, once we'd had that diesel heater on for half an hour, got it up to temperature, it stayed there for, well, until we woke up the next morning, and like I say, there's a bit of a chill. So yeah, the insulation, if you're looking for insulation choices, Celotex, and both the Celotex and the recycled plastic stuff worked really, really well. Our tyres were brilliant in the snow, even the ice, the mud. We did very nearly get stuck once and they got us out. So we've got Falcon, Wild Peaks, and we went up a size from 15s to 16s. I'll link a video in the description that discusses the tyres in more detail, but yeah, they haven't even lost any tyre pressure. They've been absolutely brilliant. Our solar was pretty damn good as well. We've got 300 watts on the roof. Now I could add another panel, but to be honest, when there's really short days and no daylight, doubling nothing is nothing. So even if you might be getting 10 watts, if I put on another 300, I'm only going to be getting 20 watts. The one thing I think may help is tilting panels, so I might look at that if there's time, but like I say, I'm not desperate. Our whole electrical system with the DC to DC charger and the solar, absolutely brilliant. We rarely needed to go on hookup whatsoever. There's a couple of other bits and pieces I'm going to do, probably mess around with the storage a little bit. I'm going to make an AJ blocker to stop him coming in the front when I'm driving, maybe an AJ blocker at the back, but that will all be dictated by the final job that I need to do, which is the one that's going to take the longest. Okay, so you have to excuse the mess, but when we built the van, we built AJ his own dedicated bench seat, and this is because he likes to be up on things. But for most of you that follow the channel, you'll know he had an operation, so his back legs now aren't great, which means getting up and down on this is a bit of an issue when you couple it up with the stupid, ridiculous, slippy, heavy laminate floor that we've got. So in hindsight, this solid wooden floor was a bit of a mistake. It's not even the cheap laminate, it's like 16 mil thick, proper wood veneered on top. And it's durable and it's solid and it's, you know, it's taken all the abuse it's thrown at it, but it is no good for us anymore, so it needs changing. Now the easy option would be to get like a grippy non-slip vinyl and just go straight over the top, but that would mean I'm covering up an awful lot of weight that, to be honest, I could do with ditching, so I need to get the floor out. Now this is going to be a complete pain in the ass because the floor went in first, and of course everything else sits and is screwed on top of it. Now, like I said, the bench seat is coming out anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem there, but the biggest concern is the kitchen, because to try and take the floor out and move that all down 16mm, it's just not going to fit. It's not a square van, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So I'm going to try and get it out and be able to leave the kitchen in place, but it's going to be an absolute sod of a job. So the kitchen, the bed, everything absolutely sits on top of it. So the plan is to change the floor, and then this bench seat will become a second tower to match that tower, and then a raised portion here for the toilet to go under, and more of a den for AJ to sleep under. So yeah, changing this flooring is going to be an absolute pain in the arse, and depending on how it comes out and how the new flooring goes in will dictate how big the changes are in the rest of the van. So you have to stay tuned to see me struggle with that, and to see how it goes. But that's about it. Sorry, I have rushed through this video a little bit. It's because I want to get on, I want to order all the parts, and to be fair, no matter how chunky my tyres are, what changes I make to this, it's still going to be a tin box on a 2-wheel drive, so it's not going to do all of the adventures that I want to do. So this fanny revamp is project number 1, and hopefully over the next couple of weeks I will acquire project number 2, but until I've got it, that's going to have to wait for a whole new video. But yeah, that is about it. So don't panic if you're new around here and you've been enjoying all the travel content. It's going to take a while for the parts to come, and we are going to do a couple of little mini adventures around the UK and show you some of our own backyard, hopefully, in between building all this. But for those of you that are interested in the changes, I will document all of that in videos as well. So it's going to be a bit of a mix for the next month or two, so hopefully you will enjoy watching both. But if not, like I say, I understand that not everyone wants to see me pouncing around inside the van changing the floor. So yeah, the videos are going to be a mixture of build and travel. But as always, whatever you're here for, thank you ever so much for watching. If you do want to see all the changes, hit the subscribe button, or don't, it's entirely up to you. I will never ever know. Give this video a like, and I will see you all with Emily, hopefully. No, actually, solo trip first. I'm going on a little solo adventure, which I'm very much looking forward to do. Something I've wanted to do for a long time and have never had the chance. And then, yeah, a couple of little mini adventures with Emily, plus all the upgrades. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.